What's going on, guys? Sherjan here, your personal mentor. This video is all about my homies that are international students, right? So it's all of you from China, India, Pakistan, Brazil, all these other places that are, working in the US or want to work in the US, going to school in the US right now, and would love to work in the West, let's just say. And look, I was like you guys, right? I'm actually originally from Pakistan, immigrated to Canada, and then as a Canadian, I went to school in the US for masters, and then tried my best to break in. Now, as an international student, it's very hard. It's harder than most people. I know you're coming to the US school because you have a passion that, hey, ultimately I want to work in this beautiful part of the world, and there's a lot more opportunity here, and all the amazing firms and brands are here, you make more money, and hopefully you can support your family in the back, all that stuff, right? That's the hope, that's the goal. But it's more challenging, right? Because immigration issues, quotas, visas, employers, kind of saying one thing, but not really hiring people that are international as much. There's all these things that happen. So in today's video, I wanted to kind of just talk to you guys heart to heart about what you can do to improve your chances and hopefully get closer to your dream job and dream career, and hopefully that opportunity in the West. So number one, if you're an international student and you know you're an international student and you know it's tough, you know it's going to be challenging, I want you to acknowledge the fact that it's going to be tough. But once you're done acknowledging it, I need you to stop dwelling about it, right? I need you to stop having that victim mentality that, hey, this is so tough, how am I going to get my visa? Companies are not hiring international students, like, XYZ reason, blah, blah, blah. No. Unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, those are the cards that are dealt. Think about it this way. You're already blessed. You're already lucky. You're already, in the West, going to school in the West, being part of this world. You probably have some sort of OPT or some sort of student visa. Can you imagine how many people don't even have the option to even be here, right? So to begin with that, I just want you to know, count your blessings, you're already awesome, you're already cool, and once you have that, stop worrying about what you don't have. You can't change it. Those are larger things that are dependent on politics, international policy, all those things. You're not going to be able to change that. So stop dwelling on it. We need to move forward, and we need to move forward towards things that you can do. I never worried about things that I couldn't do. I always worry about the things that I can do, because those are things that I can control. So number one, that's that. Number two, you got to take control of things. Now remember, this is going to be a tough journey for you, right? So that means you need to do more than your competition. If your competition is preparing for interviews and stuff, you need to prepare twice as much, 3 times as much. If someone is networking by going to info sessions, you need to cold email 50 people a week, right? If someone is not going beyond their comfort zone, you need to get outside of your comfort zone. Go reach out to people that are not in your neighborhood and close vicinity that went to your school. You need to do way more, right? And there's a term called doing the most. You need to be doing the most to get that. Because if you just do what is required, what is normal, the odds are stacked against you. So from my situation when I went to UCLA, I interviewed and networked before I interviewed with everyone that mattered. Everyone. Doesn't matter who they were, where they were, what firm they were at, right? Even though I wanted to work at Goldman Sachs, I wanted to work at Morgan Stanley, I didn't stop there. I knew even one person, wherever they were, would give me a shot, I would get that edge. So I interviewed with firms up and down the food chain, networked with everybody, and regardless of geography. If I could find someone who was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs in Tokyo, who had went to UCLA before in the past, I would email him and be like, hey, here's who I am, would love to chat. And they would laugh at me like, hey man, do you even speak Japanese? I didn't. But if they liked me enough, if they saw my preparation, the work that I'd put in, they loved my attitude, loved my energy, and loved my personality, they would then at least help me. And that was the hope, right? That what if that one person likes me? And if they do, they'll be like, okay, look, Tokyo, Goldman Sachs is probably not a good fit for you, but I got a buddy of mine in Chicago, I got a buddy of mine in San Francisco and New York that can help you. Let me connect you with them. That's how your network grows. So whatever's in your control, you need to do 3 to 4 times as much compared to your competition, because it is a challenge. Your wall is a lot higher than them. So you'll need to build a much higher stair, a much higher ladder to get over that wall. And that comes with all the effort you put in, from networking to preparation, to making sure your technicals are on point and you're not missing the basic foundation stuff. Your story makes a lot of sense. You've done all the things that are in your core and more to get that. So that's number 2. Number 3, and this is the biggest issue that I think a lot of international students do, they apply to jobs in the West only. They apply to jobs at McKinsey, New York, Goldman Sachs, New York, Goldman Sachs, San Francisco, right? The top firms in the top cities. Because in your mind, you're like, that's why I came here. If I don't get that, that's a waste. But that's wrong. Because everybody and their mom and their puppy is applying for those jobs. And guess what? In terms of like the rankings of people and how they're going to be ranked, folks that are international, unfortunately, are not going to be, as favorable to folks that are actually local. Because when you're local, there's less friction. You have the regular, the visas and all the stuff that you need, the paperwork, the style, the culture, all those things. As an international student, you probably don't have that. So first thing I want you to do is take that out of your mind. Unfortunately, you don't choose where you work. Because you're trying to, first thing is step into the US industry, into the West industry, you need to spread a much wider net. So much wider net means don't just apply to Goldman Sachs, New York, apply to Goldman Sachs, Austin, or Goldman Sachs, Houston, Goldman Sachs, Timbuktu, doesn't matter where. Apply broader than the main cities. Number two, apply to firms that are not Goldman Sachs. Apply to tier 2 firms, tier 3 firms, tier 4 firms. Keep on going down the food chain. You need to spread a much wider net than the other guy, right? And that's important. Now that doesn't mean you go work at that tier 4 or tier 5 firm. By the way, nothing wrong with working at those firms. You'll still learn a lot, you'll still make good money, you'll still have good people that'll train you. But when you apply to those firms, you get those interviews. Once you get those interviews, it gives you leverage. Once you have leverage, you can then go back to Goldman Sachs and say, look, I'm wanted on the street, right? Similarly, if you get an offer, oh my God, your leverage gets even higher. Goldman Sachs will take you seriously. McKinsey will take you seriously. So don't just focus yourself on the prime tier 1 cities of these firms and tier 1 offices. Go broader. That's key. And that's just in the US. On top of that, and this is the critical point, think about your brand. You're someone from, let's say, Singapore, right? And you're studying in New York and you're interviewing for jobs in New York, but you're Singaporean. You're not an American. And look at the competition. Everybody that you're competing with has gone to Columbia, NYU, Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, all the top schools. And you're also, let's just assume, going to one of the top schools. Let's say you're going to some of the, one of the top 20 schools in the US. The problem here is you are competing with a lot of competition for the same job in that prime city, or in the US, let's just say. But what if you took your brand and also applied in your home country, in Singapore? Goldman Sachs has an office there. Morgan Stanley has an office there. McKinsey probably has an office there. What if you took your awesome West brand that you just acquired, bring it back to your home base where you will be considered king? Because look at your competition there. Your competition there is not Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, these top schools. Your competition is there. It's also good schools, NUS, SMU, right? But they're not at the same level as Harvard, Stanford. And it's a much smaller market. And think about from those employers. Those employers are dying to get candidates who have left the home country, have gone to the West, gotten foreign educated, learned the foreign system and all that. They would love for them to come back. So your chance of getting an interview is so much higher in your home nation. It's so much higher to get your offer in your home nation. And that's what I did. I couldn't even get a single interview in Los Angeles when I was going to UCLA. I was trying my best, tried everything, couldn't do it. Guess what I did? Took a week off from school, went back to Toronto, right, and interviewed at the 4.5 banks that are in Canada. And all of them gave me an interview. I got into trouble because I snuck into Rotman for doing that, but having said that, I got my interviews because I knew my brand of UCLA, the prep that I had done, the networking that I had done, and basically I was ready if I got the shot. And I would definitely get the shot compared to my competition in Toronto. That's what I did. Once I got my first offer at Bank of Montreal, that offer allowed me to open doors in the US at firms that I wanted to work at. And then Houlihan Lokey gave me an offer, then I took it in Los Angeles. So similarly, don't just apply to jobs in the US. Take your brand, it's gonna be so much more amplified back home, and apply to jobs back home. They would love to have you. Now, you may be like, but Sherjan, I don't wanna work in Singapore. You don't have to work in Singapore. You don't have to work in India or China or Hong Kong or Sydney. But if you get those interviews become leverage. If you get those offers, they become even greater leverage. And that leverage is gonna help you get those interviews that you really want in the United States or Canada or London. Those interviews are gonna help you, or those offers are gonna help you unlock potential offers in the West. All right, so as an international student, don't lose hope. It's gonna be hard, accept it, right? Prepare harder, network more, wider, go wider than that. And don't just focus on the United States. Focus globally, use your brand where it's valued the most. Once you get something from there, bring it back home. All right, team, good luck.